Today I'm going to be finishing up with the base. What I've decided is to use mahogany stain on it, a red mahogany stain. I'm just going to give it some darker tones to it. So I'm using Minwax red mahogany. I had this sitting around for a while here. It's a full can. This can goes like quite a long way, so I've literally had this for years. First I'll get some gloves on. Make sure I don't get the stain on my hand. And I've already tested it out on a sample piece of board, and it looked okay, but I wasn't like 100% happy with it. It was sanded smoothly, so I didn't really get a good gauge from that one. So this one's not as smoothly sanded. I'll say that I'm definitely happy with how it looks on this workpiece. Nice, dark and rich. Look at that color. That is brilliant. So I want to make sure I don't get stain up here. This is where I've got to glue the hand onto, so I don't want to stain that. So I'm just going to be a little bit mindful of not staining that part. Wow, this is taking on a really rich color. I like this. And this point here is where I'm just going to dab. Come back here. And of course, the more coats you give it, the darker it's going to get. I like to play with staining in different ways to achieve some different shades. Little stain goes a long way. You know, I tend to over buy stain. Like I buy always more than I need because I don't think it goes that far, but it really does, especially if the wood's already sanded in some way. It really does go like seriously a long way. I'm gonna probably give it about maybe 10-15 minutes, then I'll come back to it and do some more dabbing to get some more tones on there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is come back in this darker area. And I'm just going to give it a little more stain there. And I'm going to come in on the inside here as well. Okay, so we're another 5 minutes of drying. Gonna come back now and do a bit of wiping, bring up some more contrast on this piece. So first I'm just gonna lightly wipe this part. Sometimes I wipe aggressively and sometimes I just kind of pass my hand lightly. I think that's about it. Okay, so this is what we got. It's a really nice look there. Okay, all that's left is to leave this and let it dry. It's now been 48 hours since I've stained the base. I'm going to move on to the next step now, which is to glue the hand onto the base. One thing I realized when I was measuring up my marble sphere to the hand is that one finger in particularly went down when I sanded it. It just reduced a bit in height. So all the fingers weren't making contact with the sphere anymore. So I had to just use a little bit of wood filler and then I'll have to sand that down. I want all the fingers to make contact. It's not very easy to do that. It takes a lot of measuring. Well, can't say I actually measured, but pretty much putting the globe there, seeing what the reference is, and then very gently taking down, some parts of each fingers and then putting it back and doing that over and over and over again until you get it in a way that all the fingers make contact. Because of course it's going to have a round type shape to all the fingers. Yeah, that one was a tough part to do, and I'm still kind of wondering if I'm gonna actually stain this in any way. I want a contrast, but not too much of a contrast. So something I'm gonna decide later on is this is gonna be glued, and I'll let it sit undisturbed for probably about 24 hours. That marble sphere weighs close to 15 pounds. So I want to have a little bit more security, seeing that I brought this thing all the way from Italy. Not going to be easy to replace. As far as I'm concerned, it's irreplaceable because it's one of a kind. What I'm going to do is drill 2 holes under here, from here straight through into the hand, and I'll do some dowel pegs. I'll actually put in there with glue as well, so then I'll have also a mechanical retention between the hand and this base as well. Okay, anyway, let's get to gluing. So I want to use enough glue to make contact, but not too much that I have some oozing off to the side. That's what I want to try to avoid. Because again, I want to have as much surface contact with the glue as achievable. I'm going to put some glue in the back of the hand as well. This is the last time I'm going to be able to put this down. Okay, so my glue is getting a bit tacky now. So I am going to put it on right away. So easy does it, of course. Okay, so now the trick is to put the clamp on it and not have it move around too much during the clamping process. Because as soon as I go to exert some downward force on this, it's going to want to slide. And just like I thought, it's starting to slide around. this is going to present a bit of a challenge here. It's one thing when you don't have a slippery surface pushing things you're sliding on. Once that surface gets slippery, it's going to be harder. I think what I'm going to do is let this glue tack up a bit more before I clamp it down. After waiting a while for the glue to tack up, I attempted clamping it, and the hand is just still sliding on this. So I'm going to leave it as is and not clamp it. I think that's the better option to go with. Don't clamp it and let it stay in the exact positioning I want right now. Because right now it looks great, and I am not going to tempt fate. I've decided to go ahead and stain the workpiece now. One other thing that I've decided against was putting the dowel, drilling a hole through the base, putting a dowel through and gluing it. Because at this point, seeing how the glue worked, I think that would be a huge overkill right now. I don't think it's necessary. I want to stain this part here slightly different than the hand. I want to make this a little bit darker. This is more like a shirt sleeve here, this part. If you can picture it like this, okay? You can see this is like a shirt sleeve with a hand coming out of the sleeve. So I'm trying to see if I'll get this a different tone than the hand to create a little bit of separation. The reason I'm going to stain it is because I realized that having the marble sphere on there with the color the hand is right now, it's a little bit too much contrast between the sphere, the hand, and the base. And the showpiece is actually not really the hand. It's that marble sphere. You guys will see what I'm talking about when we come to the end of the project. So I want to show the marble sphere more than I want to show the holder of it, which is kind of weird because I spent all this time on this project. However, that is the goal here. So I'm going to stain the hand a bit, and I think it'll work out fine, and everything will still match up quite nicely. So let's get to staining. So I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be using a rag to stain it. That'll help me get some more control over just how much stain is going to what area. I've already stirred up my can, so it's all good. And I've got another rag for excess to just be able to wipe it off. Put that stain over there. And I think I'll start with the base first. Actually, not the base, but the sleeve portion of the hand. Start with that first. Now this is applewood. Sorry, not applewood, cherrywood. So it's a different flavor. Flavor. I talk about flavor with apple and cherry so much when I'm smoking. I'm concentrating on the flavor. It's a different density, different color from the base itself. The base is that mahogany. So the stain will react differently to this wood. And already I am liking that result. That is pretty nice. Staining, definitely the right decision. You can see how nice that color is starting to take. It has a brilliant hue to it, a brilliant sheen as well. That's showing up quite well. This part's going to get a little bit tricky because I've got some real tight spots to work my way into there. I suspect I'm going to have to open the whole rag out and just kind of douse the rag a little bit more to get up in there. So before I get there and douse the entire rag, I'm going to work on the hand itself. I was pondering as well whether or not to stain the fingernails. So let's try a little bit of a experiment and see what's going to happen if I don't stain them at all. Stained up to them, but not included. Let's see what that'll look like. Now that actually looks quite good. Now I'm going to go to the back area where, like I said, I'm going to have to more soak the rag, kind of pull it through just to get right up in the hard to reach spot. This will do it no problem. I'm going to come all the way around. I'll let that sit for approximately half an hour. I'll come and give it another coat again. Okay, so I've allowed this to dry for 48 hours. And right now what I'm doing is some sanding of the hand portion itself, just to lighten it back up a bit to create some separation from this part. As you can see, it's already looking a little bit lighter. And I'm just going to keep sanding this lightly, and it will bring back some more lightness here, but not make it totally light like the wood was in the first place. So what this is going to give to is more detail on the little marks in the hands. That's going to stay darker. And then the portion, I guess, which is exposed to more light, I would say would be brighter. Now, one detail that I noticed that's popping up here, it's a pretty cool one. It's almost like I'm getting fingerprints showing up. Let me see. I'm wondering if I can put that somewhere that you can see it. Try to focus there. There it is. See, it looks like fingerprints there showing up. Okay, in the wood. So that's a nice detail that I'm actually pretty liking. That's showing up. It's showing up in different places too. Right around there. You can see it there as well. Okay, so I'm going to continue on this. I'm not going to bore you with sanding. Okay, so I'm at the last stage of my staining process, and with lightly moist cloth, I'm going to go back and wipe over the hand. That's going to create more of a rich layering of stain. And lastly, I'm going to let this dry for at least 48 hours, probably even 72 hours. And the final thing would be to give it a nice clear coat. Might put 1 or 2 clear coats on this. We'll see after one coat how it looks. The lower part of the hand, and giving it another staining layer to make it a little bit darker, create separation. So very lightly, like I said, I'm just going to be rubbing this in. You can see right away as I rub it in, that nice rich color that it gives. See the part that's stained, rubbed in, and the part that isn't. Nice rich color. And again, this is about taking your time. Of course, right now, what we have a lot of is time. I'm going to go over the bottom part again, and that's going to be the final step in the staining process. So this is going to be the third layer of white tone stain this bottom portion is getting. I've already clear coated the bottom section of the base. Being under here, you can see it's nice and shiny. And I also did the side of this part. The top surface isn't done yet, which is this side, because I'm going to be clear coating today from the top of the fingers go down. And what I last mentioned is creating some separation between the hand and call it the shirt sleeve, if you will, with the staining. Now you can see what I mean. So even though this part looks very shiny, it's not actually clear coated yet. It's just stained. It's just the method of staining that I do that produces this layering of the stain. As you can see, you can pick up all those like light colors in there and some dark patches as well. And you see the hand itself, now it looks more brownish. It's not that dark anymore. We got this unique separation between both of them. Okay, and of course the base as well, because the base looks different as well. So this is the one I'm using. And you should normally take a stick or something and stir this up, but I find just swirling the can like this a lot usually gives a nice mixture there. You don't want to shake it, because when you shake it, you create bubbles and transports to your workpiece. So don't shake the can, just stir it around. As usual, I'm going to put on some gloves here. And I'm using a very small art brush because it's nice and light, and I'm trying to prevent brush strokes. And we start up high and just work my way down with each finger. Because the other thing I'm trying to prevent is like dripping. Now this is a semi-gloss clear coat. It looks really, really glossy when it goes on, but it dries to not a brighter sheen. Just making sure to get all into the little crevices as well. Now I've done a few pieces, wood pieces, where I created a glass-like finish with the clear coat. And how I do that is through multiple coats and sanding between coats. You get this nice glass finish to it. Looks really, really nice. And again, all the excess, just being careful to brush it off, again, to avoid any drips. So when I do my final coat, which is It'll be in about 3 hours. I'll do a coat of the sides, lower area, and that will be it. So there you have it. It's all done. Only thing left is the final coat, and I'm not going to bore you with seeing having you see this again. The only difference with the final coat is that I just do it again. You've already seen it once. Don't need to see the exact same thing again. So next time you see this, it will be all completed. Well, after 2 weeks of work on this project, on and off, of course, had to give time for glue to dry, for clear coats to dry, for stain to dry. So few 48 hours, 36 hours in between waiting on things. And but quite a few hours put in, I will say. Definitely staining it was the right decision, and it turned out quite well. So hopefully this gives you some bit of inspiration on stuff that you can do during this worldwide pandemic, this COVID-19 situation we have going on. I myself am not a sculptor. I just thought that I should spend some of the time that I have right now just taking my time working on something. And this was the result. So I'm sure you two at home, you've got extra time. Maybe sit down, think about it for a while, and bring out the inner artist in you. Only thing left for me to do right now is to take that marble sphere that I kept talking about the whole time. I'm sure you guys is like, where is the sphere? Where is the sphere that he keeps talking about? All that's left is for me to take the marble sphere and put it with this. Next thing you'll see is the two of them coming together. I'm all done. I got to go find another project to do.